Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 18:30 South African time. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tonight will be our last lecture. We will be covering, we will call tonight like a revision lecture, and I will go through the various slides. And then secondly, Tom will take us through a mock demonstration, and then he will also cover one or two administrative points. So if I can kick off. So what I'm going to cover tonight is when we went through the slides over the past 5 to 6 weeks, there were certain texts highlighted in red, and we said those texts, there are exam questions based on those texts. So a huge part of my revision lecture is I will focus on those red texts, and we'll just explain to them those texts again in a bit of detail. So I will be skipping lots of slides. I will just be focusing on the red text that appeared in the previous lectures. So under Law 1, we covered number of players, and usually when two sides play each other, usually it's 11 players. But if there is an agreement before the game starts, you may play the game with more than or fewer than 11 players. But it's important, if you do play with more than 11 players, that only 11 players may field at any time. With regards to the nomination and the replacement of players, so it's important that before the toss or at the toss, the captain needs to nominate his players in writing, and when he gets to the toss for the latest, he or she needs to hand over the nomination sheet or the piece of paper with the nominated players to one of the umpires. And once the toss has taken place, no player may be changed on the nomination sheet without the consent of the opposing captain. It's not for the umpires to decide. It's for the opposing captain to say yes or no. So yeah, so after the toss and before the game starts, if a player get injured while warming up, the law allows that player to be changed. Okay, but you need to go to the opposing captain. You need his or her consent. If it's given, yes, you then may change the player. If it's not given, then unfortunately that player may not be changed. In terms of umpires, according to the law, the umpires needs to be at the ground at least 45 minutes before the scheduled start of play. So if play was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, the umpires needs to be at the ground at least 9:15. And the reason for that is there's lots of duties that the umpires needs to perform before the game starts. But according to law, at least if the game starts at 10, 9:15 is the latest that the umpires needs to be at the ground. So does the law allow the umpire to be changed? Yes, the umpire can be changed if the umpire becomes injured or ill, or if there's exceptional circumstances. But then the replacement umpire shall only stand at the striker's end, unless both captains agree that that umpire or the replacement umpire can take full responsibility as an umpire. If there's no agreement, then the replacement umpire needs to stand at the striker's end for the rest of the game and the other official umpire, he needs to move from bowler's end the one over, and the next over he will stand at bowler's end again. So fair and unfair play. Who decides whether an incident is fair or unfair? The captains, the coaches, the umpires. They shall be the sole judges of fair and unfair play. The umpires, sole judges of fair and unfair play. So who decides whether a field or ground is fit to play? Again, it is solely for the umpires, and together they decide whether conditions of ground, weather, or light, or exceptional circumstances means that it would be dangerous or unreasonable for play to take place. So with regards to fitness of play, solely for the umpires. Coaches have no input. Captains have no input. Only the umpires, and together they decide whether conditions of ground, weather, or light, or sometimes exceptional circumstances mean that it would be dangerous or unreasonable. So when there is a suspension of play, or if play is in progress and the umpires do not agree on conditions of ground, weather, or light, if there's no agreement, play shall immediately be suspended. I'll use an example. It is in fading light, let's say 6 o'clock in the evening. It's now starting to get dark. The umpires start to give non-verbal signals to each other that it's getting a bit dark. If one of the umpires feel that it is too dark and play needs to be suspended, according to law, play will then be suspended immediately. You do not need both umpires to agree. According to law, only if one feels it's not safe for play to continue, play will then be immediately suspended. Position of the umpires. So the law tells us that the umpire needs to stand where he can best see and act upon any decision that he needs to make. So the law allows the strikers in umpire to stand on the offside. So usually the strikers in umpire needs to stand on the leg side. So whether it's a left or right hand batter, the strikers in umpire needs to stand on the leg side. But there are times where the strikers in umpire may decide that the offside is better, and a typical example is the late in the evening, the sun setting, the sun in his eyes. Then the umpire may then stand on the offside. But as soon as the umpires decided to move to the offside, the umpire then needs to inform the captain of the fielding side. The umpire needs to inform the striker and the other umpire. Just a tip for the exam. The law says that you need to inform 3 individuals. The captain needs to inform the captain of the fielding side, the striker, and the other umpire. So if they in the exam, if you do see it's a question like this, and let's say they only say true or false, do you need to inform the strikers in when selecting to go on the offside? He or she needs to inform the captain of the fielding side, true or false. In the exam, that would be false. Yes, you do need to inform the captain of the fielding side, but they're looking for all three needed to be in the answer. What I mean by all three, the answer had to show captain of the fielding side, the striker, and the other umpire. That's just a tip for the exam. Scorers. With regards to the appointment of scorers, so what do scorers do? Three things. Scorers, they need to record all runs scored, all wickets taken, and they need to record the number of overs bowled. That is the job of the scorers, to score the runs, all the wickets taken, and the number of overs bowled in the game. The ball. In more-day cricket, whether it's a test match cricket that spreads over 5 days, whether it's a 4-day match, a 3-day match, or a 2-day match, when there are more than one innings in the game, the captain of the fielding side may demand a new ball after how many overs according to the law? After 80 overs has been bowled. So again, the captain of the fielding side, he may demand a new ball after 80 overs. It's his prerogative, doesn't have to take a new ball, but the law allows the captain of the fielding side to ask for a new ball once 80 overs has been bowled. The bat. The overall length of the bat from on top of the handle until the bottom of the blade shall not be more than 96.52 centimeters. Overall length shall not be more than 96.52 centimeters. And again, I'm just focusing on the red portion of, or the red text in the slide. The pitch. What's the length of the pitch? 20.12 meters. I prefer to use the metric system. Measuring tapes these days are in metric. For exam purposes, you are allowed to use the imperial system. So length of the pitch, 20.12 meters, and that equates to 22 yards. The width of the pitch is 3.05 meters or 10 feet. The creases, and here is 10 free marks in the exam. So this is Senwes Park in Potchefstroom, South Africa, one of the provincial grounds where the Northwest Dragons play their cricket. In terms of creases, there are 3 of them. There's the popping crease, there's the return crease, and the bowling crease. The popping crease is the front line. The return creases are the 2 sidelines, and the bowling crease joins the 2 return creases. What are the length of these creases? The length of the popping crease is 3.66 meters minimum. The length of the return creases are 2.44 meters minimum. And the length of the bowling crease is 2.64 meters. And that is an exact measurement because it runs from the one return crease to the other return crease. So looking at the picture, we'll start on the crease on the right-hand side, where they just emphasize again the name of the creases. You can see the front line is the popping crease. The return crease are the 2 side creases, and the bowling crease joins the two return creases. So there's 3 marks that I'm giving you. The names of the return of the creases will be in the exam. In terms of measurements, starting with the return crease, with the popping crease, we're now looking at the crease on the left-hand side where the measurements are. So the length of the popping crease is a minimum of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. You can write either one in the exam. Again, as I said, I prefer the metric system. So 3.66 meter is the minimum length of the return crease, of the popping crease. Going over to the return creases, there are 2 of them. Their minimum length is 2.44 meters. So minimum length of the 2 return creases are 2.44 meters. The measurement of the bowling crease is 2.64 meters, and this is an exact measurement. The other important measurement is from the bowling crease to the popping crease. You'll see the length there is 1.22 meters. So just a tip of how I memorize these measurements. I take the length from the bowling crease to the popping crease, which is 1.22 meters. If you multiply that by 2, you get 2.44 meters. And which length is 2.44 meters? Yes, the return crease. If you take 1.22 meters and you multiply it by 3, you get 3.66 meters, which equates to the minimum length of the popping crease. Yeah, that's just an easy way for me to remember the length of the return crease as well as the length of the popping crease. Another tip that I'm giving you for the exam, when looking at the measurements of the creases, please take careful note of the arrows in the exam. So looking at the arrows, if you can looking at the bowling crease, which equates to 2.64 meters. If you look at the arrow shows you from one return crease to the other return crease. So they're looking for the full length of the bowling crease. If the arrow showed halfway, so from the return crease up until the middle stump, that would be halfway. Then they're not looking for the full length of the bowling crease. They're only looking for half the length of the bowling crease. So please take note, have a look at the arrows, where the arrows goes to. The same apply for the other creases, whether it's the return crease, whether it's the popping crease. Look at the arrows in the exam. If the arrow shows you, like in this picture on the left-hand side, if looking at the popping crease now, the arrow shows you from the top end right till the bottom, they're looking for the full length of the popping crease, which is then 3.66 meters. If the arrow shows halfway, so from the middle stump to the one side, then what they're looking for is, they're not looking for that full length, they're looking only for half. So that's another tip for the exam. Mowing. We all know that we need to mow the pitch and the outfield on each subsequent day that the game is going to take place. So with regards to timing of the mowing, the law's clear when it comes to mowing of the pitch. The mowing of the pitch needs to be completed not later than 30 minutes before the game is about to start. So if the game starts at 10 o'clock, mowing of the pitch needs to be done by 9:30. So anytime before 9:30, you can mow, whether it's 10 past 9, quarter past 9, 20 past 9, as long as the mowing is done before 9:30. Rolling of the pitch. So when may the pitch be rolled? So once the game has started, the pitch can only be rolled before the start of each innings, other than the first innings of the game, and before the start of each subsequent day's play. So those are the two instances where the pitch, once the game has started, when the pitch can be rolled. So before the start of each innings, so if a captain side gets bowled out, or captain declares and the other side needs to go bat, the batting captain has the prerogative to roll. So before the start of each innings and before the start of each subsequent day's play. That is when rolling can take place once the game has started. So who requests rolling? It's the prerogative of the batting captain whether he wants rolling or not. Doesn't have to take a rolling. It's up to him or her if they want a rolling. And if they do want rolling, how long can they roll? Up to a maximum of 7 minutes. Not more than 7 minutes are they allowed to roll. So can they roll for 5 minutes? Of course they can. Can they roll for 3 minutes? Of course. Can they roll for 1 minute? Yeah, of course they can. All the law tells us is not more than 7 minutes. So in practice, if a side gets bowled out, you usually go to the captain of the batting side, and you ask him or her, do you want rolling? If they say yes, we want rolling, you then give them the option. At test or provincial level, there's usually the option of 3 rollers, a big one, a medium one, and a hand roller. You give that option to the captain. He or she can then choose which one, and then you also ask the now batting captain how long you want rolling. And if he tells you want 9 minutes of rolling, you'll tell him or her, unfortunately not, the max is 7 minutes. Intervals. What are classified as scheduled intervals? Scheduled intervals are intervals that gets decided before the game starts. So an example of a scheduled interval is the period of close of play on one day and the start of the next day's play. Interval between innings, that's also a scheduled interval. Interval for meals, whether it's lunch or tea time, that is also a scheduled interval. Interval for drinks, also a scheduled interval. And lastly, any other agreed interval before the game starts. These are 5 examples of scheduled intervals. What are unscheduled intervals? Examples of them is just one example is a rain interruption. That's an example of unscheduled intervals. But these 5 that I've just read to you are scheduled intervals. So how long is the interval between innings? According to law, interval between innings is 10 minutes. So if side A gets bowled out at 11 o'clock, then there will be a 10-minute interval. Side B will need to face the first ball, or the first ball needs to be bowled by 11:10. So usually we allow a 10-minute interval between innings. Okay, but the law tells us that if an innings ends when 10 minutes or less remain before the close of play, then there will be no further play on that day. And then no changes shall be made to the start of play the following day. So what this means is, let's say your game starts at 10 o'clock, and if I can use test match as an example, and they use 2-hour sessions. So game starts at 10 o'clock, close of play is at 5 o'clock. So according to law, and we just mentioned in the previous slide, that if an innings ends, there should be a 10-minute interval or 10-minute change of innings interval. But the law tells us, if an innings ends when 10 minutes or less remain before the agreed close of play time. So in my example, test match, close of play is 5 o'clock. So at 16:50, side A gets bowled out. So 16:50 is 10 minutes before the official close of time at 5 o'clock. So according to law, this is now 10 minutes or less before the close of play. We will then have close of play for that day. So close of play will now not be 5 o'clock. At 16:50, when side A was bowled out, close of play will be at 16:50. So 10 minutes or less, even if if side A gets bowled out at 16:54, is this 10 minutes or less before the agreed time for close? Yes, in our example, it is, because our close of play is 5 o'clock. So 16:54 is 10 minutes or less before the close of play when an innings ended. That will be close of play for the day. So yes, we did finish in my second example 6 minutes earlier. In my first example, we ended 10 minutes earlier. But according to the law, and the next day, play needs to start at 10 o'clock. There might be the question, yeah, but we ended 10 minutes earlier the previous day, or in the first example, or 6 minutes earlier in the second example. According to law, that time will not be made up. We will start on time the following day, which is at 10 o'clock. Yeah, in the past, the law used to be not that flexible. Lunchtime was lunchtime, lunchtime was 12 o'clock. No matter what happened, lunchtime needs to be at 12, and let's say tea needs to be at 3 o'clock. They were not flexible, but over time, the lawmakers decided to be a bit more flexible, and they decided that when it comes to lunchtime or tea time, and in this slide particular, we're now referring to the tea interval. So they decided that if tea is at 3 o'clock, and if an innings ends when 30 minutes or less remains before the agreed time for tea, you will take tea immediately. And in most competitions, or in most modern competitions, tea is 20 minutes. So if an innings, if tea is at 3 o'clock and an innings end or side A gets bowled out at 14:30, according to the law, you will take tea immediately, and tea will be 20 minutes. Play will resume at 14:50. So if innings ends 30 minutes or less. So if an innings ends at 14:42, what happens next? Yes, you will take tea immediately. Why are you taking tea immediately? Because the innings ends 30 minutes or less. So in the second example, because side A was bowled out at 14:42, this is now 30 minutes or less before the agreed time for tea, which was at 3 o'clock. We will take tea immediately, and tea will be a 20-minute duration from 14:42 till 15:02. Again, just to save a bit of time, the lawmakers decided if a side is 9 wickets down at the lunch or tea interval, what do you do? According to the law, if a side is 9 wickets down at the tea, whether it's lunch or tea, you need to play an extra 30 minutes to see if you can take the 10th wicket. And as soon as you take the 10th wicket, you will then take lunch or tea. I'll give you an example to illustrate this point. Lunch is at 12 o'clock. At 11:58, the last over before lunch starts, and the side is 9 wickets down. The over completes, the bowler completes the over at 12:02. What do you take? Yes, lunch is at 12 o'clock. Do you take lunch? No, you don't take lunch. Why? Because the law tells us that we need to delay the lunch interval by 30 minutes to see if we can get the 10th wicket. And if we can get the 10th wicket before the 30 minutes elapse, we will then take lunch immediately. If we cannot take the 10th wicket within the 30 minutes, so if we get to 12:30 and we have not taken the 10th wicket, we will then take lunch at 12:30. And in most competitions, lunch is 40 minutes. So lunch will then be from 12:30 till 13:10. So just to summarize, if a side is 9 wickets down by either lunch or tea, and you get to your lunchtime or your tea time, and let's use lunch as an example, you get to 12 o'clock, you will not take lunch at 12 o'clock. Because the side's 9 wickets down, you will extend play for a further 30 minutes to allow the fielding side to try to get the 10th wicket. Again, this law was changed so that we can save a bit of time. Also, it's important just to remember here that the side needs to be 9 wickets down for this law to be able to kick in. If a side is 8 wickets down at 12 o'clock, this law cannot be applied. The side needs to be 9 wickets down at the lunch or the tea interval. In modern cricket, we do allow intervals for drinks. The law gives us a guideline and by saying that the drinks interval shall not exceed 5 minutes. Can be less, can be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. All the law tells us your drink interval shall not exceed 5 minutes. Completion of an over. If at the agreed time for an interval is reached, the over needs to be completed before the interval, except, so if lunch is at 12 o'clock and you get to 12 o'clock and you've only bowled 4 balls, you do not leave the field of play and say and tell the fielders, it's now 12 o'clock, it's lunchtime, we're going off. No, only 4 balls was bowled. The law tells us we need to complete that over. Even though it's 12 o'clock, we will complete the over. We will bowl the further 2 balls. And at the end of the over, we will then take lunch. But there is an exception. And that exception is if less than 3 minutes remains before the agreed time for the interval, for the lunch interval, that the interval shall be taken immediately if a batter is dismissed or a batter retires, or if the players needs to leave the field of play. I'll use an example to illustrate this point. Lunch is at 12 o'clock. At 11:58, a batter gets dismissed. Let's say batter gets bowled. 11:58 is less than 3 minutes to lunch. According to law, lunch will be taken immediately. So at 11:58, you will take lunch. Lunch will be 40 minutes duration, and we will return at 12:38. The toss. Who shall be present at the toss? The captains and at least one of the umpires. Where shall the toss take place? On the field of play. So anywhere on the field, the toss can take place. Yes, traditionally, we go to the pitch or just next to the match pitch. That's where the toss takes place. That's traditionally, but according to the law, it can actually happen anywhere on the field of play. So now we know who must be there. We know where it needs to take place. So in terms of timings, there's a window period that the toss has. Not earlier than 30, not later than 15 minutes before the scheduled start of play. So an example, play starts at 10 o'clock. What is the window period for the toss to take place? That window period is 9:30 to 9:45. So anywhere between 9:30 and 9:45, the toss can take place. 15-minute window period for the toss. So now the toss took place and Captain A wins the toss. So the law tells us that as soon as the toss has been completed, the captain of the side winning the toss needs to notify his counterpart immediately, as well as the umpires, whether he's going to bat or bowl. You cannot delay and say, let me first go speak to my coach, or can I get back to you in 5 minutes? Once the toss is completed, the captain winning the toss needs to notify his counterpart and the umpires immediately. And once notified, that decision then cannot be changed. The follow-on. So lead on the first innings. So in a 2-innings match of 5 days or more, and let's use a test match as an example, the side batting first needs to lead by at least 200 runs to have the option of asking the other side to follow on or not. That lead needs to be at least 200 runs in a 5-day game or more. Not all games are 5 days. So in a 3 or 4 day game, what should that lead be? The minimum lead should be 150 runs. In a 2-day game, what is the minimum lead? 100 runs. And in a 1-day game, and this is not a 1-day game like a 50 over 2020 game. This is a 1-day game where 4 innings gets played. In that game, the minimum lead should be 75 runs. So 5-day test match, minimum lead 200. A 3 or 4 day match, minimum lead 150. 2-day game, 100 runs minimum lead, and a 1-day game, 75 runs is the minimum lead for the captain of the side to enforce the follow-on. If the first day of play is lost, if no play takes place on the first day of the game, and it must be the first day, so the whole first day is washed out. No play takes place on the first day of the game. The law then tells us that the follow-on will now be according to the number of days left in the game. So if I can go back to my first slide, let's use a 5-day test match as an example. On day 1, no play gets no play is taken, or they do not take the field at all. The important thing is no play needs to take place. So if no play takes place on day 1, then the follow-on, in terms of the follow-on, the minimum lead now goes to a 4-day game. So how many days then left? So if they do start play on day 2, how many days left in the game? 4 days. What is the minimum lead in a 4-day game? 150 runs. So the important thing here is no play to take place on day 1. And in my example, let's say a test match. Not a single ball was bowled on day 1. On day 2, play starts. So how many days remains in this game? 4 days. What is the minimum lead for the follow-on in a 4-day game? 150 runs. The same principle applies to a 2-day game and to a 1-day game. But the important thing that you do need to remember is no play needs to happen on day 1 of the particular game, not any subsequent days. Meaning, let's say play starts on day 1, but on day 2, the whole of day 2 is washed out, and play only resumes on day 3. What is the minimum lead for the follow-on? If this was a 5-day test match, it would stay 200 runs. And the reason is only if the first day is completely washed out or no ball gets bowled on day 1, then the minimum lead for the follow-on changes, not subsequent days. The captain of the batting side may declare an innings closed at any time whenever the ball is dead. When does an over start? An over starts as soon as the bowler starts his or her run up. As soon as that bowler gives his or her first step, that is when the over starts. Or if the bowler has no run up, the over starts when his or her bowling action for the first delivery of that over. That is when the over starts. Boundaries. If a boundary is marked by a white line, so where is the boundary? The edge of the line nearest to the pitch shall be the boundary. The edge of the line nearest to the pitch shall be the boundary. I've got a picture on the following slide that will clearly illustrate this. So if we look at the picture, if we look at the line, where does the boundary starts? The nearest point, the inside edge of the line is where the boundary is. Not the outside edge, the inside edge. Same applies to the rope, same applies to the flag, to the fence, the flag, as well as the post. But in terms of the line, the fence, and the rope, the inside edge of that line, that is where the boundary is. Dead ball. There are times where a ball automatically becomes dead. So an incident happens on the field of play, and as soon as that incident happens, the ball automatically becomes dead. It is good practice, so the umpires can inform the players by calling and signaling dead ball. But according to the law, you actually don't need to do it, because according to the law, the ball becomes automatically dead. So examples of when the ball becomes automatically dead is when it finally settles in the hands of the wicketkeeper or of the bowler, then the ball becomes automatically dead. There are other examples as well. When the ball becomes automatically dead, boundary scores. As soon as the batter is dismissed, the ball becomes automatically dead. There are more examples of when the ball becomes automatically dead. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the point here is these are the 8 examples of when the ball becomes automatically dead. But the number 1 is highlighted in red, so there is a question in the exam based on this. So these are the 8 instances where the ball becomes automatically dead. There are times where the umpire needs to call and signal dead ball to inform the players that the ball has now become dead. And once the ball is dead, nothing that happens after that is relevant. So if the umpire needs to intervene in case of an unfair play incident that happened, either umpire to call and signal dead ball. If there's a serious injury to a player or an umpire, either umpire to call and signal dead ball. So what we're dealing with now is when the umpire needs to call and signal. Something happens on the field, either umpire then needs to call and signal dead ball. So this is what we're covering now. The previous 8 examples were the ball becoming automatically dead. Although it is good practice to call and signal dead ball just to inform the players. Lots of them don't know the laws. What we're covering now is when it's important for either umpire to call and signal dead ball. So other examples are when he leaves his position for consultation, he call and signal dead ball. If one or both players falls from the striker's wicket, call and signal dead ball. There are other examples, the striker distracted by any noise, bowler drops the ball accidentally before delivery, ball doesn't leave the bowler's hand. These are all examples of when it's important for either umpire to call and signal dead ball. No ball. There's lots of questions in the exam of especially the feet. So it's important that you do know how the law guides us how to call no balls on the feet. For the delivery to be fair in respect of the feet, firstly, let me start with the back foot. So the law tells us the back foot must land within and not touch the return crease. So which crease is important when it comes to the back foot? The return crease. So the back foot must land within and not touching. When it comes to the front foot, which crease is important when looking at the front foot? The popping crease. So the law tells us that the bowler's front foot must land with some part of the foot, it can whether grounded or raised, behind the popping crease or on the same side of the imaginary line joining the two middle stumps. So when it comes to the back foot, you're looking at the return crease, front foot, look at the popping crease. We'll go through the examples now to illustrate point number 1 and point number 2. So in this example, if you can start with the front foot, which line is do you look at when it comes to the front foot? The popping crease. What questions do you ask yourself? Is there any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the popping crease? And when we say behind the popping crease, we look at the back edge of the popping crease and not the front edge of the popping crease. So is there any part of the front foot behind the popping crease? Yes, so we're happy with the front foot. The back foot, is there any part of the back foot touching the return crease? Yes, there is. So in this case, this is a no ball because the back foot is touching the return crease. This next slide. Front foot. Any part of the front foot behind the popping crease? Yeah, happy. That's way behind the popping crease. The back foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? No, it's not. So this is a fair delivery. This is a left arm spin bowler bowling around the wicket. So let's start with the back foot. Any part of the back foot touching or returning the touching the return crease? No, it's not. So we're happy with the back foot. The front foot. Which line is important when you look at the front foot? Only the popping crease. are there any part of the foot behind the popping crease? Yes. So we're happy with the front foot. Some I've heard people say, yeah, but the front foot is over the return crease. When it comes to the when it comes to the front foot, the only line that is, or crease, that's important is the popping crease. And the only question that you ask yourself when it comes to the front foot, are there any part of the foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the popping crease? And in this instance, yes. So this is a fair delivery. So we start with the front foot. This is again left arm around the wicket. Any part of the front foot touching, any part of the front foot with the grounded or raised behind the popping crease? Yes, we're happy with the front foot. Any part of the back foot touching the return crease? Yes. So this is a no ball, back foot touching the return crease. Back foot, we're happy. There's no part of the back foot touching the return crease. This is a right arm over the wicket bowler. When it comes to the front foot, are there any part of the front foot where the grounded or raised behind the popping crease? And again, we're looking at the back edge of the popping crease and not the front edge. So yes, there is a small portion behind the popping crease. So we're happy. This is a fair delivery. Back foot, not touching the return crease, we're happy. Front foot, are there any part of the front foot where the grounded or raised behind the popping crease? There is nothing behind the back edge of the popping crease. So this is a no ball. Back foot, we're happy. It's not touching the return crease. Front foot, are there any part of the front foot where the grounded or raised behind the popping crease? No, there's not. So this is a no ball. I want to bring the following under your attention. When looking at the front foot, you need to look at the first landing, where the front foot lands. There are times where a bowler's foot will slide. So what you need to look at is not where it ends up, where it lands. If the front foot lands and there's any part of the front foot where the grounded or raised behind the popping crease upon landing, then that is a fair delivery. Do not look at where it ends up, look at where it lands. And if it lands behind the popping crease, where the grounded or raised, even though it slides over and end up like where it is in this picture, it would still be a fair delivery. Back foot, we're happy. Any part of the front foot where the grounded or raised behind the popping crease? Yes. So we're happy. This is a fair delivery. Any part of the front foot where the grounded or raised behind the popping crease. You can see the front foot is raised. Are there any part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, there's not. So this is a no ball. And earlier we spoke, if you can just visualize, this is a left arm over the wicket bowler. And he now comes over the wicket and he puts his front foot over the imaginary line or over the middle stump, as in this picture. This is a no ball, and the reason for this is originally he came over the wicket, but because of now his foot landed, he is now changing his mode of delivery to around the wicket. Hence, you need to call and signal no ball. So what happens if a ball bounces more than once or it rolls along the ground? I want you to take note of, if a ball bounces more than once or roll along the ground. If that happens, the bowler's in umpire to call and signal a no ball. Actually, the best umpire in the position to call this is actually the striker's in umpire. There's nothing stopping the bowler's in umpire to call it, but the striker's in umpire is actually in a better position. So either umpire can call it, but I think the striker's in umpire is in a better position. So if a ball bounces more than once, or it rolls along the ground before reaching the popping crease, either umpire to call and signal no ball. So the important thing I want to bring under your attention here is if it bounces more than once. In the exam, be careful, read the wording carefully. It needs to bounce more than once before reaching the popping crease for either umpire to call and signal no ball. When it comes to calling and signaling the wide ball, so the bowler's in umpire needs to call and signal wide ball as soon as it passes the striker's wicket. So just delay your call slightly, wait till it's past the striker's wicket, wait till it's past the batsman before calling and signaling wide ball. Now, according to the law, that is considered wide from the instant that the bowler entered his or her delivery stride. So even though you only call it when it passes the striker's wicket, but according to law, it's actually considered wide from the instant that the bowler entered his delivery stride. So when does the bowler enter his delivery stride? The moment the back foot lands or landed. So technically, it's the moment the back foot landed and the ball was wide, it's already a wide. The moment that back foot landed. But you can only call it once it passes the striker's wicket. How can you be dismissed of a wide? Hit wicket, obstructing the field, run out, and lastly, stumped. So there are 4 ways how you can be dismissed of a wide. When shall the umpire allow a substitute fielder? So once the game has started and the umpire is satisfied that the fielder has become injured or ill, the umpire shall allow a substitute fielder. So once the game started, if the umpire is happy that the fielder has become injured or ill, the umpire shall then allow a substitute fielder. Fielder absent or leaving the field of play. So it's important that as soon as the fielder leaves the field of play, that he or she firstly needs to inform the umpire why he or she is leaving the field of play. And I'm giving you a few practical tips. The umpire then write down the name of the fielder and the reason why the fielder is leaving the field of play and the time that the fielder is leaving the field of play. Then, when the fielder leaves, you tell the fielder, again a practical tip, when you return, please tell me when you return to the field of play. Also just mention to his captain, player X is leaving, please let me know when he or she returns. So as soon as player X returns to the field and the umpire, either of the umpires gives consent, what you then do, you write down, you take out your notebook and you write down player X returned and you write down the time that player X returned. And now we're going to find out why that is important. Because that fielder needs, or that fielder will only be allowed to bowl until he or she has been on the field of play for the same amount of time that he or she was off the field of play, up to a max of 90 minutes. So if I give an example to illustrate this point, player X, let's say Johnny leaves the field at 11 o'clock. He comes to the umpire, say, umpire, I've injured my hamstring, I'm going off. It's 11 o'clock. You write down his name, reason why he's leaving, and time. Johnny comes back at 11:20. He comes onto the field. He asking you, umpire, can I return to the field? You give him permission. He returns to the field. 11:20. You take out your notebook. 11:20. How long was Johnny off the field? 20 minutes. So he returned at 11:20. He was off for 20 minutes. When can Johnny bowl again? He needs to serve that same amount of time that he was off. So he was off for 20 minutes. So Johnny can bowl again at 11:40. Up to a max of 90 minutes. So let's say Johnny goes off at 11 o'clock and he only returns at 4 o'clock the afternoon. So yes, he was, let's say, off for about 3 to 4 hours, but according to the law, the max time is 90 minutes. So Johnny can bowl in 90 minutes time. So if he returned at 4 o'clock, he can bowl again at 17:30. Also, penalty time does not disappear. You will always carry penalty time into the next day or the next innings. So, if let's use the next day as an example. Close of plays at 5 o'clock. Johnny leaves the field at 4 o'clock. And the next morning, play starts at 10 o'clock, and Johnny only comes onto the field at 10:30. So the previous evening, Johnny was off the field for 60 minutes. The next day, he only came back to the field 30 minutes after play starts. That 60 minutes didn't disappear overnight. You carry it forward into the next day. So in total, Johnny still owes us that 60 minutes of the previous day, plus the 30 minutes of day 2, because he was off the field from 10 till 10:30. So in total, he owes us 90 minutes. Also, when it's a scheduled interval, that time does not get added to penalty time that the fielder owes. It's only playing time that a fielder needs to serve. Point number 6, I've just mentioned that I said it carries into the next day and into the next innings of the game. In terms of timing of appeals, for an appeal to be valid, it must be made before the bowler begins his run-up, or if he has no run-up, his bowling action to deliver the next ball, and before time has been called. So there's quite a lengthy time for that, for an appeal, that an appeal is valid. But as long as it's done before the bowler begins his run-up, or if he doesn't have a run-up, his bowling action, and it needs to be done before time has been called. Also, the call of over does not invalidate an appeal as long as it's made prior to the start of the following over and provided time has not been called. We play you a video.
Fair catch. A catch shall be considered fair if the ball is held in a fielder's hand, hugged to the body of the catcher, or accidentally lodges in his or her clothing, helmet, or protective equipment. But of course, this being cricket, it isn't always that simple. If a fielder deliberately uses an item of clothing to try to catch the ball, it is not out, and 5 penalty runs are awarded to the batting side. However, the ball can be caught after it has deflected off the other batsman, an umpire, another fielder, including off a helmet being worn, or even if it lodges in a fielder's helmet. Perhaps the main criterion for a catch to be considered fair is that the ball must not touch the ground before being caught. Here, for example, the ball does not touch the ground even though the hand holding it does so in affecting the catch. This is a fair catch. And then there is the question of catches near the boundary. This is such an interesting subject that we've given it a film all of its own. To catch up on everything to do with catching, simply refer to Law 33 in the Blue Book.
Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, the catch law is examined. So Tom did forward you the video. So I suggest you go watch the video again. So lastly, in this law, court to take precedence over any other dismissal except bold. So bold is number 1, court number 2. So court to take precedence over any other dismissal except bold. We're almost done. Leg before.
Leg before wicket. LBW. LBW is a little like the offside rule in football. Many people claim to know it, but how many people really do? Our handy checklist means that whether you find yourself umpiring an international test match or the kids on the beach, your reputation for fairness will remain intact. There are 5 basic criteria to consider. The batsman is out, leg before wicket, if 1. The bowler bowls a ball that isn't a no ball, unlike this poor fellow. 2. The ball, if it is not intercepted on the full, pitches in line between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the batsman's wicket. It cannot be out if the ball pitches outside the line of the leg stump. 3. The ball hits the batsman either full pitch or after pitching and before he hits it with his bat. 4. This is where it gets a bit more complicated. If the batsman was making a genuine attempt to play the ball, the point of impact must be between wicket and wicket for LBW to be an option. However, if the batsman has made no genuine attempt to play the ball, the contact must either be between wicket and wicket or outside the line of the off stump. 5. This is the crucial part. But for the interception by the batsman, the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps and dislodge the bails. Any questions? Just refer to Law 36 in the Blue Book.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy. Just to go over the points to consider for LBW. Firstly, the ball should not be a no ball. It needs to either pitch in line or it needs to pitch on the offside of the wicket. It should not have touched the bat first. If it touched the pad first, then the bat, then you can consider LBW. But if it touched the bat first, not out. The striker intercepts the ball with any part of his person. Yes, I know it says LBW, leg before wicket, but it can be any part of the person. Head, elbow, shoulder, stomach, doesn't matter. And the point of impact needs to be between wicket and wicket, unless there was no attempt made by the striker to play at the ball with his or her bat. We'll go through a few examples to illustrate these points. And the last point, and the most important point under the LBW law is, in your opinion, would the ball have gone on to hit the wicket? Let's go through a few examples. So, firstly, the first point was whether it's a no ball or not. Let's assume all of these are fair deliveries. So, did it pitch on the offside or did it pitch between wicket and wicket? In this example, yes, it did pitch on the offside. And in this example, it pitched between wicket and wicket. So we're happy with where it pitched. So this batter is a candidate. Where did this ball pitch? Did it pitch on the offside or between wicket and wicket? It pitched on the offside. So we're happy. This batter can be a candidate if it should hit his pad first. Where did this ball pitch? Did it pitch on the offside or between wicket and wicket? Yes, it pitched on the offside. So this batter can be a candidate if it should hit his pad first. Where did this ball pitch? For this right-hand batter, it pitched outside leg stump. And because it pitched outside leg stump, this can never be out LBW. The moment the ball pitched outside leg stump, it cannot be out LBW. So now to go through a few examples. The first question you ask yourself, where did it pitch? Did it pitch on the offside or did it pitch between wicket and wicket? So yes, this pitched between wicket and wicket. Next one, it hit his pad. Is the impact in line? Is the impact between wicket and wicket? Yes, the impact is between wicket and wicket. So this batter is a candidate. The last question that you need to ask yourself is, what is it? Would the ball have gone on to hit the wicket? If in this case you feel it would have gone on to hit the wicket, you give this batter out LBW. Next one. Where did the ball pitch? Did it pitch on the offside or between wicket and wicket? Yes, it did. So we're happy with where it pitched. The impact. Is the impact between wicket and wicket? And is he playing a shot? So yes, he's playing a shot in this instance. Is the impact between wicket and wicket? No, the impact is not between wicket and wicket. So this means this can not be out. This is hit him outside the line. First question, did the ball pitch on the offside or between wicket and wicket? Yes, it pitched on the offside. Where was the impact? The impact was outside the line. Is he playing a shot or not? No, he's not playing a shot. And because he's not playing a shot, you can now consider this as an LBW, even though the impact was outside the line. And what is the last question that you need to ask yourself? Would the ball have gone on to hit the wicket? Looking at this pick, I don't think it would have gone on to hit the wicket, but that is your judgment call for you to make. What's the first question you ask yourself? Did it pitch outside off or did it pitch between wicket and wicket? Yes, it pitched between wicket and wicket. Where was the impact? Impact was between wicket and wicket. What's the last question you ask yourself? Would it have gone on to hit the stumps? If your answer to that question is yes, you're giving out LBW. Where did it pitch? Did it pitch between on the offside or between a wicket and wicket? Yes, this pitched between a wicket and wicket. Where was the impact? Was it between wicket and wicket? Yes, the impact is between wicket and wicket. Last question, would this have gone on to hit the stumps? No, I don't think so. I think it's missing off. Excuse me. Where was the pitch? Between wicket and wicket or on the offside? Yes, it pitched on the offside. Where was the impact? Yes, the impact is between wicket and wicket. Would this have gone on to hit the stumps? That's your last question. I don't think so. I think this ball is missing leg stump. Where did it pitch? Outside the off stump. Where was the impact? Yes, it is between wicket and wicket. Would it have gone on to hit the stumps? No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit too high. We're almost done. There are 2 more laws, then we're done.
Stumped. All batsmen fear being stumped, and all wicket-keepers dream of stumping batsmen. So let's be clear about the law. The only player who can stump a batsman is this fellow, the wicket-keeper. A stumping can take place provided that the ball is not a no ball. You can be stumped off a wide, however. Here, for example, the batsman has moved out of his or her ground to play the ball, but has missed it and has not attempted a run. The wicket is fairly put down by the wicketkeeper without the intervention of another fielder. When all these conditions are met, the batsman will find that he or she has indeed been stumped. It's also okay for the ball to rebound onto the stumps off any part of the wicketkeeper, including his or her protective equipment or helmet. If it is a no ball, the batsman will not be out-stumped and is also protected from being run out as long as he or she is not attempting a run. Don't be stumped about stumping. Get a copy of the Blue Book and study Law 39.
And lastly for this evening, to give a batsman out timed out, how many minutes does the batter needs to be ready to receive the ball? 3 minutes according to the law. So according to the law, the incoming batter has 3 minutes to get to be ready to receive the next ball. Important part here is he's got 3 minutes. Tom, thank you so much. That is my part for this evening. I'm now handing over to you to to do a mock exam example and then to cover a few administrative points.
Thank you very much, Abdullah, for that thorough revision lecture. I will now be taking through the candidates, the mock exam, and the exam that we use is the Introduction to Umpiring exam. It is a level below level 1, only 35 questions, and it's also online and 30 minutes in which to complete the exam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take through the candidates step by step, click by click, how to receive the email that they will get on Saturday if they have paid, and what to do to first register for the exam, and then how to start and answer exam questions. So I hope you can all see my screen. I'm displaying the inbox of my wife because the email exam link can only be sent to an email address once. Okay, so obviously over the years, I've sent it to my email addresses, and so I can't send it to my email address this evening. So that's why I've used my wife's email address, and it's all in French because she's French. But here we have highlighted in green an email from Umpires Universe Academy. So this is what it's going to look like. The subject is you have been enrolled in a course level 1 umpire examination. And in fact, I realize now that I've made a mistake because I should have sent the other exam and not this one. So let me quickly, while I am on the portal, send the correct mock exam to my wife's email address, and hopefully it's able to send the second exam to that same email address. Introduction to Umpiring. That's what we want to go through this evening. So I'll go back to the inbox and I will refresh. Don't even know how to refresh in French. Okay, here we go. It's come up. You have been enrolled in a course, Introduction to Umpiring. So let's click on that. And this is what the email looks like. It tells us that we've been enrolled, but we need to register. Okay, so now what's important to note as well is the link is valid for 10 days. So it'll be valid from 9 a.m. at South African time on the 4th of June, Saturday morning, until the following 2 Tuesdays later, the 14th of June at 8:59 a.m. Okay, so 10 days in total from when I send it to you on Saturday morning. So we go and we register, and I'm using my wife's email address. hotmail.com, and you create your own password, okay? I always use the same password for all of my accounts. And agree to terms of use. Then we click sign up. User created, please check your email. Okay, so let's go back to the email address. And Umpires Universe, confirm your email. So we go in there. It says, thank you for signing up. Please confirm your account by clicking the below button, confirm account. Okay, so now our account has been verified and we can enter the portal to attempt the exam. Log in, and you'll see that I've been registered for both, but for tonight's exercise, I'm only going to take introduction to umpiring. You guys will see level 1 exam and you'll click on view course. Tonight, we're going to go through the introduction to umpiring exam. So I'll click on that one. But just a little bit of information on the level 1 exam. It is a 90-minute test and there are 69 questions. All of them are true or false or multiple choice. So you don't have to memorize the law book. And the questions that we're going to answer here in the introduction to umpiring exam are pretty similar in terms of wording as well as the format being true or false or multiple choice. Okay, so this is where you are now preparing your account, and it's important that the names that you put in here are what you want on your certificate. Okay, so I'm going to put in my wife's name and date of birth. So for here, instead of going through all of this, it's easier just to put in, highlight what's in there and overwrite it. So I'm just going to change that. No, it doesn't look like I can change it. So I'm going to have to do it sort of manually. Go down to 1982 and 20th of August. And remember, these are my wife's details that I'm putting in. And then here, for now, you guys can put in where you're from. So if it's Mumbai, India, that's fine. But you only have South African provinces to select. So please select Western Cape. That is the province that South Africa, that we are based in Cape Town. Okay, and then I save changes. And then I need to go to current test, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it my courses? There we go. So I've gone to my courses and I've clicked on the picture. So you would click on the picture and then at the next screen, you can watch this video. Let's not watch the video because the sound won't come through. Let's go straight to take test. And in fact, it's not 30 minutes. We've only got 20 minutes to answer the 35 questions. What you will find that it sometimes does get a bit slow if there are a lot of us on the system at the same time. But on my side, it's pretty quick. In fact, it is 30 minutes, not 20 minutes. So again, I click on I agree to the terms of use, and this is where it's very important for you to select wherever you are in South Africa or in the world, you select all the way at the bottom, Western Province. This is so that the certificate comes to me. If you select Boland, the certificate is not going to go to me. It's going to go to Boland's head of training, Godwin von Willig. If you select Border, it's going to go to somebody in East London. It's going to go to Lawrence Willemse. So please, guys, for you to get your certificate emailed to me, you need to select Western Province, regardless of where in the country or where in the world you are. Okay, it's going to save all of us a lot of trouble if you select Western Province. If you select another province, then the certificate is going to be sent somewhere else, and then you will complain that I haven't forwarded it to you. And the reason I wouldn't have forwarded it to you is because I wouldn't have got it. Okay, it would have gone to somebody else. So please, 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 please put in Western Province. Now we start the test. And this is a mock as to what you will see, true or false questions. And I'm going to open up the floor so we have a little bit of interaction and just to test your guys' knowledge. So starting with the top of the list, and we will come to a Q&A at the end of this mock exam. I see Asif. In fact, let's go with Nanesh because he's got his hand up. Nanesh, you won't be answering. We won't be answering your question yet. We'll be taking questions at the end of this mock exam, but I'm going to ask you to unmute your microphone and help me answer this question. So the question given to us is: a batsman will be stumped if the wicketkeeper kicks the ball onto the stumps. Is this true or is this false? Please unmute your microphone. It is true. So you select true and you click on submit, and you will see that it takes a little bit of a while because it's registering your answer, and it doesn't tell you if you have got the answer correct or not. What it does is it takes you to the next question. Okay, so Nanesh, we'll come back to you at the end of the lecture for the question that you wanted to ask. We're just going to go through as many questions as we can in the 30 minutes, just to show all of you what happens if we don't finish the exam in the given time. And also, if we do finish it in the given time, what happens then? Do you get your certificate immediately? Do you get the answers that you got wrong immediately? So let's go through the next question. And I'm going to ask Asif Iqbal if he can unmute his microphone and help me answer this question. Question number 2, umpires before the toss do not need to determine the times of play. Now, this is where we have to be very careful, especially with true or false questions, is the double negatives. So umpires before the toss do not need to determine the times of play. Asif, is that true or false?
It's false.
False, I would agree with you. So let's submit that. They do need to determine the times of play. Thank you very much for your input. We are going to ask the next person who is AJ. AJ, if you could unmute your microphone and help us answer the next question. Question number 3, an umpire may give a batsman out without an appeal. True or false? AJ, are you with us?
True.
AJ, a batsman, I don't agree with you. Think about it. An umpire, Law 31, may give a batsman out without an appeal. That is false. The only mode of dismissal that does not require an appeal is bowled. All other appeals, all other modes of dismissals need to have an appeal, and only then can the umpire give the striker or non-striker out based on the appeal. Okay, so we submit that. Move on to the next question. And I'm going to ask the next person on the list, who is Altaf. Altaf, if you can please unmute your microphone and help us answer question 4. A team can field with 12 players. True or false? Abdullah has covered this evening.
That's false.
That is false. I agree with you there, Altaf. Thank you very much for your interaction. And next we're going to ask Arabinda to help us with question number 5. Arabinda, please unmute your microphone. A batsman can be dismissed from a wide delivery. True or false?
True.
True. Thank you very much. Well done, Arabinda. I'm happy with that. We submit and we go on to the next question. We're going to ask Ashish to help us. Ashish, if you can unmute your microphone and let me know if captains are responsible for the team's conduct. True or false? That sounds true to me as well. Thank you. I will submit that and I will move on to question number 7 and ask Bhavesh if Bhavesh can help me to answer the next question. And all of those of you who have answered previous questions, if we can mute your microphones, please. Bhavesh, Arya, you can unmute your microphone and tell me if a batsman may retire at any time during his innings. True or false?
True.
So the law says that a batsman may retire anytime during his innings when the ball is dead. So I think this is an example whereby the statement is not 100% correct. So I would actually mark it false. But let's go with true. And I think we will see at the end of the submission whether or not we got it right. So let's go with that. And then we've got another Bhavesh Panjwa, I think. Bhavesh, if you can unmute your microphone and help me with the next question, question 8. The umpire must give the batsman out leg before wicket because no shot was offered. Bhavesh, have you got an answer for us there, true or false? I'll read it again for you. The umpire must give the batsman out leg before wicket because no shot was offered. Abdullah has gone through that this evening. True or false? Are you there, Bhavesh? Your microphone is unmuted, but I think I heard you say false right at the end there. So I agree with you. Just because a batter has not played a shot does not mean that they will automatically be given out leg before wicket. We need to say yes to all 5 of those questions. Bhavesh, if you can mute your microphone now, thank you very much. And we will move on to the next question. Bhavin, if you can unmute your microphone and help me answer this question. The call of no ball shall override the call of wide. True or false? Bhavin, are you there? If you can unmute your microphone. and help us answer?
It's true.
That is true.
True.
No ball always overrules a wide. Submit that and move on to the next question. It looks like in this exam, all of the questions are true or false. However, in the level 1 exam, there will be multiple choice answers, A, B, C, or D, but similar kind of questions. So question 10, I'm going to ask that Brenson, apologies. Brenson, if you can help me answer this question. Number 10, bowlers and umpire to call and signal no ball if more than 2 fielders are behind the popping crease. True or false? Brenson, are you there? Can you unmute your microphone and help us answer this?
It's false.
Why would you say it's false, Brenson? I'll try and help you out here. I think the law says either umpire shall call and signal no ball if more than 2 fielders are behind the popping crease on the leg side. Okay, so because this statement is not 100% correct, you would mark it false in the exam. Okay, so I'm going to submit false for you there. And then the next question, I'm going to ask for Silna to unmute your microphone and help us answer this question. Question 11, a striker may set off for a run from in front of the popping crease. True or false? And I'm just going to mute everybody else because I'm getting a fair bit of noise in the background. Silna, true or false, a striker may set off for a run from in front of the popping crease?
That's true.
That is true. Quite often batters bat from in front of the crease and they don't have to go back into the crease before running. So happy with that answer. Right, next question. I'm going to ask for help with from Devisha. Devisha, please unmute your microphone and help us answer question 12. It is not against the spirit of the game to dispute umpire's decision. True or false?
False.
False is correct. So we submit that and move on to the next question. If you can mute your microphone, you already have, thank you. M. Kershoff, if you can help, please, to answer the next question. Question 13, a batsman will not be given out if the ball touches an umpire. True or false? Mr. Kershoff, please unmute your microphone. Are you still with us? M. Kershoff, a batsman will not be given out if the ball touches an umpire. True or false?
It's true.
So what you have to ask yourself here is, if the ball hits the umpire, does the ball become dead? Or
Yes.
does play carry on?
It's true.
So no, the ball carries on, is still live, unless of course the umpire is seriously injured, then either umpire shall call and signal dead ball. However, it does not talk of any serious injury, so the ball remains live and a batter can be given out, caught, if the ball is struck straight back at an umpire, it hits the umpire on the full, and then the ball loops towards the bowler and the bowler takes the catch. So this will be false. Okay. A bit of a tricky one. Let us move on to Godfrey Christian for the next one. And Gaino, I am specifically skipping you because you are a level 3 candidate. So Godfrey, if you can unmute your microphone and help me answer question 14. A bowler may change his delivery mode without informing the umpire. True or false?
False.
Godfrey, well done. That is false. We know that the umpire would call and signal no ball if the bowler changes his or her mode of delivery without informing the umpire. Well done and thank you. Next, I think this is Tasneem Granger. If you can unmute your microphone and help me answer question 15. An umpire may signal 4 byes in one motion to the scorers. True or false? 4 byes in one motion.
Four.
I beg your pardon?
So in 2 motions. False.
Yes, it will be 2 motions,
Signal
correct.
by afterwards.
100%. You need to signal byes first, and then you need to signal 4 secondly. So this would be false. Okay. And the next question is going to be for Hariharan. And if you can help me unmute your microphone and answer question 16. Teams are allowed to distract opponents verbally. True or false?
False.
That is correct. That is actually in law 41. You are not allowed to distract, deceive, or obstruct another opposition team. So quite correct. Submit. And then I'm just going to ask Harsha if you can help us with the next question. Umpires don't need to agree the boundaries with the captains. True or false?
That's false.
That is false. We need to agree the boundaries with the captains at the toss. So we should submit that. And the next question, I'm going to ask for help from Hervia. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If you can unmute your microphone and help me with question 18. The bowler's back foot may touch the return crease on delivery. Abdullah has gone through the no balls, the foot faults, and we're talking about the back foot. May
That would
touch
be
the
true.
return crease. Yes, the back foot may not touch the return crease. So remember that the back foot cannot touch the return crease. Otherwise, a no ball will be called. So that would be false. Okay, just go through those slides with the pictures and the explanation for clarity, because there are quite a few of them in the exam. I think there's about 3 or 4 marks there that you need to get for no ball foot faults. Okay. Next question, we are going to ask Jean-Paul to help us, and it's question 19. The ball becomes dead when it lodges in the clothing of an umpire. True or false, Jean-Paul? If you
Tom,
can
this is
unmute-
Jean-Paul.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it's true.
That is correct. If the ball becomes lodged in the clothing of an umpire, it does become dead, and so we can submit that as true. I'm just getting a lot of feedback, so I'm just going to mute everybody again if I can. I tried to mute myself. It doesn't seem as though anybody else is unmuted. So let's move on and ask the assistance of JK, if you can unmute your microphone and help me with question 20. A change of innings will be classified as an inning, as an interval. True or false? JK? Are you with us, JK? Please unmute your microphone if you are.
Yeah, true, I think.
That is true. Change of innings is considered a scheduled interval. So we submit. Okay, we've got 15 questions left. So let's carry on in alphabetical order to Jitendra. Jitendra, please unmute your microphone and help me with question 21. An appeal covers all ways of being out, all modes of dismissals. True or false?
True.
Jitendra, that is true. Well done. Thank you for all your interaction over the past few weeks. I'm sure you'll do well in the exam. Next question, I'm going to ask Joshua to unmute his microphone and help us answer whether a leg bye can be scored if the batsman does not attempt to play the ball. True or false? Joshua? Please unmute your microphone and help me answer this question. A leg bye can be scored if the batsman does not attempt to play the ball. True or false? I see KVS has unmuted his or her microphone. KVS, you can help me answer because I don't think Joshua is still with us.
Yeah, it's false.
That is false because if no shot is attempted, then leg byes will not be awarded. Correct, submit, and we move on. Kapil, if you can unmute your microphone and please help us with the next question. A substitute may act as a wicket keeper. True or false? Kapil? I'm hearing a lot of background noise. That is true. Thank you. You sound like you're busy playing a game of cricket at the moment. Well done. Thank you. And all the best for the exam. Next, we've got Katri Kayan. If you can unmute your microphone and help me answer question 24. An injured player may have a substitute at any time. True or false?
Yeah, that is true.
That is true. Well done, Katri Kayan. I agree with you there. Let's move on. Lee Bowers, welcome back to the association. I know you're still on level 1, wanting to do your level 2, so let's check how fresh you are on your laws. Question number 25. Umpires are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. True or false? Are you still with us, Lee? Please unmute your microphone and you can help us with the question. Doesn't look like Lee is with us, so I'll ask Mahesh if Mahesh can unmute.
Yeah, it's a bit
I am here, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Lee, go ahead.
Umpires are the sole judges. That is correct.
Okay, true. Thank you. We will give you another chance, Mahesh, so you can unmute your microphone again and help us with the pitch length is the same for all ages. True or false? Mahesh, are you still with us?
false.
Correct. False. It can be shortened for junior cricket, so false is the correct answer. Thank you for your input. We're going to move on to question number 27. I'm going to ask Margaret from Zimbabwe to unmute your microphone and please help me with question number 27. A batsman may be given out leg before wicket if the ball pitches outside the leg stump. Abdullah did go through this earlier.
False.
Margaret, you
False.
are 100% correct. False is the right answer. So we shall submit that. And off we go for the next question. And I will ask Merceline to unmute her microphone and help with the next question, question 28. No runs will be scored if the batsman is run out on the third run. True or false, Merceline? Merceline?
False.
That is correct, because the first 2 runs that were completed will count before the batter is given out. So we submit false and we move on to the next question. Michael, please unmute your microphone and help us with question 29. A fielder may return to the field without the consent of the umpire. True or false? Michael, are you there? I see your microphone is
false.
Well done, Michael. Took us a while to get there, but we got it. A player needs the consent of an umpire to return to the field. Well done. Next, I'm going to ask Mrs. K. Hemmer to help me with question 30. The umpires must only consider the first interception when answering an LBW appeal. So the first impact needs to be considered. True or false?
True, sir.
Mrs. Hemmer, that is 100% correct. I will mark it true for you and submit it and move on to the next question. Nagavenkat, please unmute your microphone and help me answer question 31. A bowler will be credited with a run-out dismissal. True or false?
False.
False is correct. Run-out does not get credited to a bowler. Well done. On to question 32, and I'm going to ask Nazmi to unmute your microphone and help me to answer question 32. An umpire is to call wide before the ball passes the striker's wicket. Abdullah spoke about this evening. True or false? Nazmi?
False.
False
That's
is
false.
correct. You need to wait until the ball has passed the striker's wicket before you call wide. There we have submitted. Now we move on to question 33, and I'm going to ask Njoguna to unmute his microphone and help me answer the following question. The bowler's end umpire to call play after any interval or interruption. True or false?
That should be true.
That is 100% correct. And I will mark it true for you and submit. Thank you very much for your input, Njuguna. Next, I will ask Pankaj to unmute your microphone and help with question 34, which is the bowler's end umpire to stand anywhere he feels comfortable. True or false? This is a bit of a interesting one. What would you say? Pankaj? Yeah, I would also mark it false because there is law does add a couple of things to where the bowler's end umpire stands. Yes, he needs to feel comfortable, but I think it does say something to the effect of wholly behind the wickets, or something else to that effect. So I'll mark it false. It could be correct, but we shall see. So let's submit it. and answer our last question. And the honor of the last question goes to Pratap. Pratap, please help us answer question 35. Dead ball signal is made by extending both arms horizontally. Okay, if you can picture that. Dead ball signal is made by extending both arms horizontally. True or false?
True, sir.
Pratap,
Hello.
dead ball, just think about that.
Dead ball
If
actually
I-
both are, it's false. It's false, sir.
That is false. That signal
That
of
is false.
extending both arms horizontally is, of course, a wide. So we shall mark this false. So guys, please, I think what's important here is let's read the questions carefully. You've got 90 minutes to answer 69 questions. Here we've answered 35 questions in less than 30 minutes. Okay, so there should not be a rush. You will have more than enough time. I've done the level 1 exam a few times, and those 69 questions, I'm able to answer them in 30 minutes, obviously because the material is familiar to me. For those doing it for the first time, I would expect you to take between 45 minutes and an hour, depending on whether you're referring to our slides that we presented or not. If you're not referring to any course material, you should take 45 minutes. If you are referring to course material, then you'll probably take up to 60 minutes, maybe up to 90 minutes if your connection is slow. But you've seen that our connection is quite good. And here we have confirmation of the answers. It doesn't tell us whether we've got them right or wrong, but once I've successfully completed the test, then I need to click on get results. And this is where the computer is basically marking your exam as per all of these answers that we have submitted, and it's going to give us our result out of 100%. Remember that the pass mark is 80%, and if we get less than 80, then we will have a chance to reattempt the exam. What I would suggest is that you do not go straight into your second attempt or your third attempt or your fourth attempt. You need to take a break after you've submitted your first attempt. And if you don't get 80%, then you must switch off, give it a couple of hours rest, and then in a couple of hours time, go back to the revision slides that I'm going to be sending out at the end of this lecture. And then you can go and reattempt the exam again, because your brain will be frazzled, especially if you get 79.86%. Okay, that will not be rounded up to 80%. It will be a fail, unfortunately. Okay, so take your time, and you do have 5 attempts from the 4th of June till the 14th of June to get the required pass mark of 80%. So here we see which questions we got correct and incorrect. I found it a bit strange that we got that one incorrect, but this will actually help you for your next attempt if you did not get 80% and above, to see which questions you got incorrect, and then you know you need to change those answers for your next attempt. Just a warning, those 69 questions on subsequent attempts will be in a different order to what they came up the first time. So if we had to repeat this exam now, question 25 would not be a batsman may retire at any time during his innings. It will be maybe question 1, maybe question 10, maybe question 30. Okay, so it will be the same 69 questions, but it will be in a different order. Okay, and so it looks like we got the last question wrong as well. But our result is 91.43%, which means that we have achieved a pass, and which means that I have received at training at WPCUA.co.za, I've received the certificate automatically. So this all happens very quickly and automatically. My wife is now in possession of an introduction to umpiring certificate. And what I will do is from here, I will forward it to her email address. Okay. So just keep in mind that if you pass your exam at 3 a.m. South African time, I will not be awake to forward you your certificate immediately. However, I can guarantee you that within 12 hours of you passing, I will send you your certificate. And you'll have a little note to say congratulations. Please find your CSA certificate attached. Okay. Boom. And what I will also do is, after the exam window period has closed on the night of Tuesday, the 14th of June, I will once again email all of those of you who have passed the instructions of how to join Western Province Cricket Umpires Association, including a link to our application form, online application form. But of course, if you're not based in and around Cape Town, then you cannot join Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. What you can do is reply to that email and say that you are based in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, and then I will put you in touch with the Umpires Association closest to you, which is KwaZulu-Natal Umpires Association here in South Africa. So that is the end of our demonstration. Before I open up the floor to questions and answers, I'm just going to go through the payment of the exams. So far, 61 of you have paid, which is great. Thank you very much for your interest and your payment for the exam. I will put up a list of those 61 people who have paid on the email I send tonight's recording. And what that will do is it will show you whether or not your email address will be sent an exam link on Saturday morning. If you have made payment and I have missed it and your name is not on the list, please resend your proof of payment and I shall add you to the list. And I will send that list again on Wednesday night. I will not be acknowledging individual payments as they come in, because there are over 280 of you now on my mailing list. So it will be quite time consuming for me to acknowledge each and every payment that comes in. So Monday night, which is tonight, I'm going to send that list of everyone who's paid up until now. Wednesday night, I'm going to send the list again to include everybody else who's paid up until Wednesday night. And then Friday night will be the last time that I send out a list. And then Saturday morning, I will be generating the exam email links to everybody who has paid by Friday night. There have been some issues with payers, particularly from India, trying to make payment. We used to quite easily make use of wise.com to make payment from India using INR, Indian rupees, to pay into our bank account in South Africa using ZAR, South African rands. However, it seems that functionality between those two currencies is no longer valid. So I spent most of today trying to figure out a different method of payment for those of you in India to pay to us in South Africa. And I found that PayPal is probably the best and the easiest. So if you do have a PayPal account already, I am plugging in PayPal onto the link that you need to use. I'll also put this on the email address. So anyone in here that still needs to make payment and can use PayPal, please try clicking on that link and you will be paying $27 US, 27.00 US dollars, which equates to 400 South African rands. So with PayPal, you are paying in US dollars, you're not paying in South African rands because there seems to be a problem paying from India into South African rands. Okay, so that's why I've gone with the option of PayPal. If we are not able to use PayPal, I'm not sure what other solution we can come up with. But before the end of this week, we will have come up with a solution if PayPal is not working. So please, all of you who have struggled to use wise.com, please use PayPal to make payments. And once again, thank you to the rest of you who have already made payments, South African and foreigners. They've been coming through thick and fast since last week, and we appreciate your support. So now I'm going to go through questions that have come onto the chat box, and I will either address them to myself or to Abdullah if they relate to the revision slides. Right. Two questions from Somdeep. Abdullah, I'm going to refer these to you. When the batter steps out of his crease and misses the ball, but it bounces before the popping crease, will that be a no ball? He does not mention whether it's one bounce or a second bounce before the popping crease. If you can just answer both scenarios, please.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for your question. I'll answer both scenarios.
Yeah, two bounces before the ball getting over the popping crease.
Popping crease, okay. Sandeep, if it bounces a second time before reaching the popping crease, either umpire to call and signal no ball. Happy with the answer, Sandeep?
You cannot be stumped.
Okay. But if he because let's say the batter was trying to step out and the bowler sees okay, the batter is trying to step out of his ball, so he just put the length back, and in between, let's say the batter plays tries to place the shot, but the ball he misses the ball completely, and the second bounce is like you can say bounce before this popping crease, but the batter has already played the ball, means he is he got the ball, he played the ball in the one bounce. Then what can be the case? Then again it will be a ball. Yeah.
Did the batter touch the ball?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, then still the same, Sandeep. If it bounces a second time before reaching the popping crease, either umpire to call and signal no ball.
Okay, Abdullah. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sandeep.
Sandeep's second question, if the batter tries to leave the ball but misses it, but the ball is pitched outside leg, then what should be the decision? Has the ball hit the pads, Somdeep?
Yes, Tom. Ball hits the
Okay,
pad.
so this is a leg before wicket appeal, Abdullah.
Yeah, Somdeep, any ball that pitches outside leg stump cannot be given out LBW. Pitching outside leg cannot be given out LBW.
Okay, Abdullah, got it. Thank you.
Okay, copy that. Thanks for your questions, Somdeep.
Okay, so the next question is from Swapnil and looks like a payment admin question. So I'll take this one, Dula. It says, I have made a payment for 2 candidates. The transaction says the receiver will get the money by June 1, 2022, around 10:30 a.m. South African time. Please confirm when received and forward the exam link to both of us. So Swapnil, you are already on my list with Abjit for tonight in terms of those who have paid. So you will be receiving the exam link on Saturday morning, South African times. Swapnil goes on to say there are a few other websites like Western Union and Remitly if PayPal doesn't work for money transfer from India. I used Remitly and it worked all fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up on the email this evening all the websites that you can attempt to transfer money from India to South Africa. But I think PayPal is probably the best. With Remitly, Swapnil, I think you ended up using an Australian dollar account, which works. I'm not sure if Harsha tried using Remitly for Indian rupees account and that didn't work. So yeah, I don't think we've got a solution yet for an Indian rupees account to send to South African rands. That's why I'm suggesting PayPal because it's sending US dollars. Next question is from Ashish. A fielder comes late by 20 minutes from the start of the match after remaining in the field of play for 15 minutes. He again goes off for 10 minutes. How many minutes is he required to be on the field of play to be able to bowl? So Dula, I'm going to give that one to you. You want me to read it again, or can you see it?
Don't. I can see it, Tom.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your questions, Ashish. The best way to handle penalty time, Ashish, and especially if a fielder goes off more than once, is to handle each time he goes off separately. So firstly, he came late. He was late by 20 minutes. Then upon return, what's the first thing you do? You inform him that he needs to serve 20 minutes before he can bowl again. You relay that same message to the captain. Then he was on the field for 15 minutes. When he leaves the field again. So the moment after 15 minutes, when he left the field, how many penalty time does he still owe us? He still owes us 5 minutes of penalty time. So that 5 minutes does not disappear. He still owes us 5 minutes. So you write down on your book when he leaves the field for the second time or when he left the field after 15 minutes, you write down on your book, player X went off again, but he still owes us 5 minutes. Now he returns 10 minutes later. So upon his return, you add the 10 minutes to the 5 minutes that he owes us. So upon his return, you inform him that he now owes us 15 minutes, which comprises of the 5 minutes of the previous time that he was not on the field, and you're adding the 10 minutes that he was off now. So in total, that is 15 minutes. So he can bowl again in 15 minutes time. So he's informed, and you then also inform his captain that he can bowl again in 15 minutes time. Thanks, Tom. Tom?
Thanks, Dula. Sorry, I was on mute there. Next
Okay,
question
no
is
problem.
from Brenton. He's asking about payment. How am I supposed to pay? I am in Nairobi, Kenya. Please help. So, Brenton, you will go through the list that I will be sending out later this evening. It is possible, I think, to use wise.com from Kenya. So that should be your first attempt, because I know we've had a few payments come through from the United Arab Emirates using wise.com. And it seems like the problem is only with payments coming from India. If that does not work, then I would suggest PayPal. So I will put down all those details of wise.com and PayPal on the email. Next question is for you, Abdullah, again from Ashish. The striker, while playing at a fair delivery, knocks down one of the bells from his wicket with his right foot. The ball hits his pad, satisfying all the conditions for leg before wicket, and then rolls down and knocks the other bail off the wicket. On appeal, how is the striker out?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for your question, Ashish. So let me start by saying, who is number one? We know that when it comes to in terms of dismissals, bowled is always number one. And who's number two? The catch is number two. And then the law only stipulates the first two. The other modes of dismissals, you will take in the order that they happen. So whichever happens first. So now when reading this scenario where there's multiple dismissals, you always need to take into account, let's eliminate bowl first and then catch second. So in the scenario, is there possibility that this striker can be dismissed bowled? And if that is the case, bowl will take precedence over any other type of dismissals. So against that backdrop, let's look at your scenario. So firstly, he knocks down a bail with his one bail with his foot. So now that is hit wicket. Okay, so we've got the first mode of dismissal, hit wicket. And then secondly, with his right foot, the ball hits his pad, and then hitting his pad is satisfy all conditions for LBW. So according to you, this guy is plumb in front. So that's LBW. And then thirdly, the ball then rolls down and knocks off the other bail. So which means, so if one bail is down, we've learned last week, if one bail is down, it's sufficient to put the wicket down if you knock over the other bail. So in this scenario, there are three modes of dismissals: hit wicket, LBW, and bowled. And we know bowled is number one. So in this scenario, this striker will be out bowled. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. So regardless of the sequence of events, if the striker is out bowled, then bowled will always take preference. Yeah, we had a bit of communication or interaction about that last week as well, Dula, and I think it's important that the candidates note that regardless of the sequence of events, if conditions are met for the striker to be out bowled, then the striker will be out bowled. Thank you for that question, Ashish, and the answer, Abdullah. Rajan is also facing trouble trying to pay using Wise and PayPal. He's going to try tomorrow a direct transfer using Axis Bank. If that doesn't work, then he will try Western Union money transfer. So thanks a lot, Rajan, for all your trouble, and please let me know which method works so that we can inform the rest of the candidates trying to pay from India. So that is all on the chat box. Now we are going to go to the hands that are up. And Nanesh, your hand has been up for the longest. Please unmute your microphone and give us your question for today.
Hello, Tom. Actually, I have few questions.
Mm.
The first one is about the position of the umpire at the striker's end.
Okay.
For the left-hand batsman and a right-hand batsman when they are playing, and how do you change? Do you consider? I mean, just for the fast bowlers, normally what I do is going to the always to the leg side of the batsman, irrespective of left hand, right hand. But some colleagues says, yeah, it's just a waste of time. So, what exactly your suggestion in that one?
Abdullah, you want to take that one?
Copy that, Tom. Yes, I'll take it. Who asked the question, Tom? What is his name?
Janish.
Sorry, Nanesh. Oh, Nanesh,
Yes.
thank you Nanesh, thank you so much for your question. Nanesh, according to the laws and my practical experience over the years, standing on the onside or at square leg of the whether it's a right hand batter or left hand batter is the best position for the umpire. The fielders are usually not in your way. You can see much clearer standing on the onside or at square leg when standing at the striker's end. So all the law tells us, yes, best to stand on the striker's end, but also you need to stand in the best position where you're able to make the best decision from that delivery. So in cases where there's a setting sun or where there is a short leg, a leg slip, lots of fielders around the bat on the leg side, if it's the best position for you to stand on the offside where you can make a decision, then move to the offside. So to answer your question, best is to stand on at the striker's end, and if there is a right hand, left hand batter, yes, do move across from onside to onside for the right and left hand batter. And a practical a tip, you can anticipate. Let's say the batter hits the ball to fine leg or third man boundary. You keep your eye on the ball. You can already start slowly moving towards the stumps, still keeping your eye on the ball just in case there's maybe a run out that can take place, or sometimes they'll run 2 runs. So slowly start moving towards the wickets. So if the ball comes in from square leg and from the fine leg boundary and returns to the keeper, you started walking in already, you're almost halfway to the wicket, and then it's once the ball is dead, you can now start moving over to the other side. So for fast bowlers, yes, move across from onside to onside for the left hand and the right hand batter. When it comes to the spinners, and especially some spinners go really quick through the overs. So sometimes it's best and not to waste time, because there's nothing worse than the bowler's ready, everyone's ready, and they're waiting for the umpire to go from square leg to square leg. So my advice is, when it comes to spinners, and especially if they quick through the overs, and if it's one-day cricket, not to waste time. Also in one-day cricket, it's important for the strikers and umpire to make sure that the field is that they've got the correct number of fielders inside the circle. So I would say one-day cricket for spinners to rather stay on one side of the wicket, that's not to waste time, and because if you are going to move from side to side, you might run, and that doesn't look good. And now maybe you get to the opposite side, and the bowler's now ready to bowl. Now you're rusty. You're not able to count the fielders in the circle for one-day cricket. So that is my advice in terms of fast bowlers. Yes, do move across. In terms of spinners, rather stay on the one side, especially in one-day cricket, because spinners do go quick through the over, and you do not want to be rushed. You do not want to hold up play, and you want to make sure that the fielding side has the correct amount of fielders inside the circle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Did I answer your question, Anesh?
Yes, Abdullah, thank you. And the next one is for the no ball. The ball bowls a ball which pitched outside the pitch and also behind the stumps or return crease. So will that be a wide or a no ball?
So the important line that you need to look at, Nanes, is you need to look at the bowling crease or the wickets. That is the important line that you need to look at when you're going to judge whether it's a wide or no. So if the bowler bowls the ball and it pitches off the pitch, but it lands before the striker's wicket, that is a no ball. If it lands off the pitch but after the striker's wicket, that is a wide. So the important line that you need to look at is the striker's wicket, whether it bounced off the pitch before the striker's wicket, then it's no ball. If it bounced off the pitch after the striker's wicket, then it is a wide.
Yeah, thank
Did I
you.
answer your question, Anis?
Yes. And the next one is the front foot no ball. I had some experience when some spinners, they're bowling quickly and they first land their front foot just outside the popping crease, and by the time they release the ball, they're dragging the foot a little bit onto the popping crease. So in that case, do we consider it as a no ball or is it a fair delivery?
Yes, Nanesh, when it comes to the front foot, the line important to the front foot is the popping crease. And what you need to judge when the spinner lands is, upon landing, was there any part of the foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the popping crease upon first landing? That first landing, that is the important part. If upon first landing there is no part of the foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the popping crease, then you need to call and signal no ball.
Yes, thank you.
Did I answer your question, Anish?
Yes, Abdullah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the next one is the short balls. It's I'm talking about the one day, so it's a 50-over game, and as per our local regulations, we are allowing 2 bounces per over. But the batsman didn't stand upright in the crease, but he ducks ducks to avoid the bouncer. But from the square leg, I saw I make an what to call when the batsman was standing, I make one fixed height like fence or something which is in line with the batsman's shoulder. So even though when the batsman ducks, I gave here the bowler as one warning, because that ball would have been passed over his shoulder, if the batsman would have been stand upright. So is that correct, or is to only consider when the batsman stands upright in the crease?
Nanesh, yes, just for the other attendees. So in 50-over cricket, you are allowed, or the bowler is allowed, 2 what we call bounces per over, and that is you judge it by the batter standing upright at the popping crease, and the ball, if it goes between shoulder and head height, that is considered to be a bouncer. If it's above head height, standing upright at the popping crease, then it is a wide according to the one-day regulation. So to answer your question, what you need to judge is, if your judgment is that that ball would have gone between shoulder and head, top of the head, batter standing upright at the popping crease, you then call that 1 for the over. Even though in your scenario the striker ducked, but you need to judge whether if the striker had to stand upright at the popping crease, would the ball have been above the shoulder and just below the head? If your answer to that question is yes, you show 1 for the over. So looking at your scenario, according to you, your judgment was that bat player standing upright at the popping crease, that ball would have been between shoulder and head. So you by all means have all the right. That's your call. You, according to you, it would have been above shoulder and below it. So you have the right to call 1 for the over, even though the batter ducked, but that's irrelevant. Your judgment is, if you were standing upright at the crease, would the ball have been between shoulder and head right?
Yes, thank you, Abdullah.
You're welcome.
And next one is
how many more? Because I see there's quite a few other hands, Nanis.
There are two more. I think these ones are a little bit easy ones.
Okay. I'll allow you to answer the two, but then I'm going to go to the other hands. And if you still have questions, I will gladly answer them. We will answer all your questions, even if I have to sit here till the next morning. I'll gladly answer all your questions. But I'll allow two more, Nanis.
Sure, Abdullah. I'll wait.
Okay, so can I go to the other ones and you can come back? I think that is what
that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, that is fine.
Tom, who was next in line?
Mohammed Imran, please unmute your microphone and you can ask your question. Mohammed, please unmute your microphone. Are you still with us?
Yeah, I was actually want to answer on in exam when we were going. That's why I raised my hand on that time. Now I'm just listening to you guys. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't have any question right now.
Okay, great. If you can, okay, I've lowered your hand for you. Next hand that was raised was Bhavin Panchal. Bhavin, please unmute your microphone and ask your question.
Tom, this question is to you. That me from Mombasa, Kenya, I have been trying to send via Wise the money payment.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunately getting a problem. So I did a telegraphic transfer. I hope it will reach by today or tomorrow morning. Just check with your bank, and I have did for 4 candidates.
Okay. If you have a proof of payment from your bank, that would help me to follow up with my bank if nothing comes through in the next 48 hours.
I have already transferred the. So I've already sent you the proof of the payment with the telegraphic transfers, the receipts, and all this.
Okay, all right, Bhavin. Then that's fine. I will follow up on my side. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay, have a good evening further. Next hand up is Jitendra. Please unmute your microphone and address the floor.
Yeah, good evening. So my question is on the law 28.4, that is limitations of onside fielders. I was hearing you telling that either umpire can call no ball in the infringement of the limitations on all onside fielders. So is it right what I've heard, or is it only the strikers and umpire?
Abdullah, you want to take that one?
Yes, I'll take it. Who asked the question, Tom?
Jitendra Sharma.
Jitendra, thank you so much for your question. According to the law, Jitendra, either umpire to call it. Yes, I would say the strikers in umpire is in the best position. So I would say he should actually call it, but either umpire can call and signal no ball, Jitendra.
Oh God, then that I think there is a problem with a printing mistake in my book, maybe because in my book what it is written is it's only the strikers and umpire. So what I'm worried about is if in exam such question arises and I end up in a wrong answer. This MCC law book I've got printed out. law number 28.4, it tells it is only strikers and umpire who can uh, call and signal no ball in the infringement of this law. So I'll change it in my book. Is it so?
What did you say? Which law is it in there?
28.4 limitations of onside fielders.
Yeah.
The blue book
So you
law.
say,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, the law book they do actually indicate that the strikers in umpire should call it. So so technically the law actually do indicate strikers in, but there's nothing debarring or I feel there's nothing debarring bowlers in. Sometimes strikers in might not pick it up. Remember, you a team. So I would say, let's say strikers in doesn't pick it up for whatever reason, but you as bowlers in picks up the infringement. And what I do, especially in one-day cricket, if I stand at bowlers in, I actually do count the fielders in the circle. And part of our the communication with your colleague and pre-match, you actually discuss this, where they do have a certain sign that you have. If there's not enough people in the circle, or if there's more than 2 behind square, you have a pre-match sign between the two of you. This is what we will do if we do pick up there's not enough. Let's say example, there's not enough people in the circle, or there's maybe too many guys behind a square. But the point I'm trying to make is, the law book indicates it's the striker's end's responsibility. But I feel there's nothing debarring the bowler's end if he or she picks it up, because there's nothing worse. Remember, you're a team. So now strikers in doesn't pick it up, but you see it as bowlers in. And so I feel you cannot stand with your hands folded and say nothing and say, yeah, but it's not my call. I'm just going to be quiet because the law book tells me that strikers in should call that particular no ball. If you pick it up at bowlers in and strikers in didn't pick it up, I think you a team. I think you should call and signal no ball at bowlers in. Tom, I don't know if you feel differently. Yes, I agree with I agree with him that the law specifies strikers in to call it, but I feel if strikers in don't pick it up, it's not, bowlers in should actually call it. I don't know how you feel about it, Tom.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Abdullah. And in fact, I'm a bit surprised if the law says it's only for the strikers end umpire to call, because, like you say, it's possible that the strikers end umpire doesn't pick it up, but the bowlers end umpire does pick it up.
I mean, I just remembered. I think if I can recall, and I agree with him. The law actually does say strikers in, but I mean, I feel like you a team. He doesn't pick it up. You should be able to call it from bowlers in, get the decision right, and don't stand there, not say anything.
I totally agree to your both of your point, and I'm going to follow the same. But the only scare in my mind is, if there is an exam question and I end up writing the other way, then I'll lose the marks. What practically you're telling is right, but technically or exam point of view, when we go, I think should we follow the book or should we follow the practicality? That is the question now.
You can follow the book in terms of answering the exam.
Yeah. Then in that case, I'll write it's only strikers and umpires jurisdiction to call and signal no ball for the infringement of the limitations of the onside fielders. That is law number 28.4.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for clearing. Now I'm more clear and relaxed. Thank you, sir.
Lovely. The next hand up is Nagavenkat. Nagavenkat, if you can unmute your microphone and address your question, please.
Hello. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Sir, there is an assumption from a batsman that if a ball hits their thighs after pitching in middle or pitching outside the off stumper, they consider it as definitely not out, even though the ball doesn't rise much. Is it true, or definitely we have to consider that if it's a thigh, it might go above the stumps?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, Tom, the question didn't come out clearly my side. Can you repeat it, or can you answer this one? I didn't hear it clearly my side.
Naga Venkat, can you please repeat the question? You weren't very clear on the line.
Sir, if the ball, the turf or the green mat doesn't have a much bounce, but when a ball pitched on the good length, hitting the thigh of a batsman, whether if we adjust LBW, whether it is correct or hitting the thigh, always we should consider as not out.
I think I heard him, so I'll take it, Abdullah.
Okay, I didn't hear him. You can take it, Tom. Thanks.
So the ball pitches on a artificial mat and doesn't have much bounce, but it goes on to hit the batsman's thigh. Should we give that out LBW or not? Well, Naga Venkat, what we need to decide is all 5 tick box questions need to be answered yes to be able to give a batter out leg before wicket. Typically, most batters, their thigh pad is above the level of the bails and the stumps. So I would think that the ball is going over the stumps and therefore would give it not out. However, you do have some very short batters, and you then need to decide if his thigh is above the level of the bails or below the level of the bails. And again, I think I mentioned it on last week, going through leg before wicket, that you can look at your partner out of the side of your eye, not turning your head. And if you two have been umpiring together for a long time, you can have signals to show each other whether or not the strikers and umpire thinks the ball was going over the stumps, because the strikers and umpire is in the best position to judge the height of a leg before wicket appeal, even though, of course, the appeal is within the jurisdiction of the bowler's end umpire. So I cannot tell you whether the ball is going over the stumps or not. You need to make that decision on field, and you can use your strikers and partner to show you, to help you. But it is your decision in the end. And we cannot make a blanket rule to say if it hits the thigh of a batter, then it's definitely not out, because some batters could be crouching towards a sweep position or a pull position. Some batters crouch when they play the pull shot. So you cannot make a rule that if it hits the batter's thigh, it is definitely not out. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
So one final question, sir. One final question. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes,
Sir,
go on.
The same questions will get repeated in all the 10 attempts if we do the exam?
Yes, the 5 attempts will include the same 69 questions. They will just be in different order each time.
Then,
Okay.
so once if we fail means, again we can come outside revision and again we can go and attempt, like that.
Please repeat. I didn't hear you.
No, sir. Sir, first attempt we fail. Again we will revise. Again we will revise all the 41 laws, and again if we go and attempt, that time we can pass like that only. Same questions will come on.
Yes, the same questions will come again. So you should know which ones you've got wrong, so you know that you need to change those answers, and you need to get 80%, which I think is 53 questions correct out of the 69, and then you will pass by getting 80% or more.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Next hand up is Nanesh. Nanesh, you have 2 more questions for Abdullah. Please unmute your microphone. Are you still there, Nanesh? Doesn't look. Nanesh, go ahead. Nanesh, your microphone was unmuted. Please go ahead. I can see your microphone is unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything from you.
Tom, maybe we can come back to Nanesh. Are there still a few questions in the chat box?
Yeah, I see a few new questions have come up. Nagavenkat's question he asked already. So we're going to move down to Ashish. The bowler threw the ball at the striker's wicket before entering into his delivery stride and broke the wickets when the striker was outside the crease attempting to steal a run. The bowler was already issued a first caution and final warning for throwing the ball by the umpires in the same innings. There is an appeal. What is your decision?
Thank you so much for your question, Ashish. So the bowler, I wouldn't say he's allowed, but the law does cover this. If the bowler throws the ball before entering his delivery stride towards the striker's wicket, the umpire needs to call and signal no ball. So that's the first thing that the umpire needs to do. So this is now before entering his delivery stride. So now and he threw the ball towards the striker's end. The striker is then outside his crease, or he's got nothing of his bat or person behind the popping crease. So you've called that signal no ball. The ball goes towards the striker's end. Striker outside his crease. Striker will, in this scenario, be run out. The ball is alive. He's not behind his crease. Yes, you've called and signal no ball, but what are the modes of dismissal in a no ball? Yes, run out is one of them. So in this case, that's why the striker can be run out. He's not behind his crease. Yes, you've called and signal no ball. So striker out, run out. So in terms of the bowler being already on a first and final warning for throwing the ball, in this case, because this happened, or he threw the ball before entering his delivery stride, you will not issue the bowler with another or a warning for throwing. It needs to happen after he's entered his delivery stride. If this had to happen after entering his delivery stride and he throws, then you would have removed this bowler from the attack. But because it happened before, this bowler will not be issued with a second warning for throwing, because it happened before entering his delivery stride. Thanks, Tom. I've answered both questions. I'm not sure if you want to add anything.
No, 100%, Tula. I agree with you fully there. The next question, also from Ashish. Not 100% sure what he's asking, but the question is, why shoulder level beamer to spinner and waist level to pacer?
Okay. I think I know what he's asking, Tom. So before the recent update to the law, this was how actually the Beamer law read. You need to judge shoulder for spinner and above waist height for pacer. But since the new update, that was changed. It is now any delivery above waist height. So whether it's spinner or fast bowler.
Correct.
So
Thanks,
so
Dula.
to answer that question, Assis, since the recent update of the laws, they've changed it. All you now need to judge is whether it's above waist height, whether it's spinner or fast bowler, and above waist height of the striker standing upright at the popping crease. If that is the case, spinner or fast bowler, you will call, or either umpire. Yes, the strike umpire is in the best position to call it, but either umpire to call and signal no ball. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Next question is from Sandeep. The ball is above waist height of the batter who continues to hit the stump. Is this out or no ball? I imagine it's a full toss and the batter in playing the shot has hit his stumps.
Sandeep, thank you so much for your question. So Sandeep, what you need to judge is, and what the law tells us, the law says any delivery without pitching, if it's above waist height of the striker, when the striker stands upright at the popping crease, if that is the case, if he's standing upright at the popping crease, and if the ball passes above waist height of that particular striker, either umpire to call and signal no ball. It's irrelevant whether it now goes on to hit the stumps. And yes, players will say, yeah, but it went on to hit the stumps. We need to apply what the law tells us. And the law tells us what you need to judge. If the ball went on the full, striker standing upright at the popping crease, if it passes above waist height of that striker, either umpire needs to call and signal no ball. What happens after that is irrelevant. So in your scenario, it goes on to hit the stumps. Yes, it went on to hit the stumps, but if it meets this criteria where it was above waist height of the batter standing upright at the popping crease, either umpire needs to call and signal no ball.
Perfect, Dula. Last one is from Srikanth. The batter hits the ball straight. It is touched by the bowler and then goes on to miss the leg stumps. It's touched by the bowler's leg and goes on to miss the stumps. It then hits the umpire and rebounds back onto the stumps. If the non-striker is out of his or her crease, is it out? Yes or no?
Thank you so much for your question, Srikanth. So the important fact that you need to take into account when it comes to run out, there needs to be an intervention of one of the fielders. A bowler is one of the fielders. In this scenario, the ball touched the bowler's leg. So yes, there was an intervention by one of the members of the fielding side. So run out is possible here. Then to continue with your scenario, it then hits the umpire and then ricochets onto the stumps. Ball is still alive. Umpire is part of the game. This is such an unlucky scenario, an unlucky way, but the decision here is out. Umpire is part of the game. There was an intervention by a member of the fielding side. The striker, the non-striker had nothing behind the popping crease. Hence, non-striker needs to be given out, run out. Unlucky, but yeah, it's just one of those cases. Thanks, Tom.
Umesh, I see you've added another question to the chat box. It looks quite complicated. Could you unmute your microphone and talk us through it, please? Otherwise, if I read it, I'm not sure if I'm going to understand it myself.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Abdullah, just explain Ash's question, which he asked for the bowler throwing the ball before entering the delivery stride. I think that was for the fast ball scenario, for a fast bowler. What happens if the same thing a spinner does before entering the delivery stride?
Umesh, same law applies. You apply the law exactly the same way, whether it's a fast bowler, whether it's a spinner. If it happens before entering his delivery stride, it is irrelevant whether it's a fast or a spin bowler. You apply the law, and the law tells us if the bowler, before entering his delivery stride, throw towards the striker's wicket, either umpire to call and signal no ball.
Okay, I get it that, Abdullah, but if it's a fast bowler, if it's a spinner, the ball has not become alive till the spinner enters the delivery stride, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so are you saying did the spinner start his run up, or is he still standing still? Is the ball live?
The ball is not live because the spinner have not taken his delivery stride and throws the ball to the striker's hand.
Yeah, then if the ball is still dead, then not out. The ball is still dead. The ball becomes live once he starts his run up. If he doesn't have a run up, he's bowling action. But most bowlers, whether fast or spin, has a run up these days. If he has not started his run up, that ball is still dead. And if he should throw it, you need to call and signal dead ball. The ball is still dead.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for all the interaction this evening, ladies and gents. I don't see any further hands and I don't see any more questions in the chat box. This brings us to the end of our level 1 course. And hopefully we can get all the payments sorted before Saturday so that we can send you the exam link on Saturday. One last question was typed in the chat box by Nanesh, asking if there will be further attempts allowed if you pass on your first attempt. The answer is no. Once you have passed, whether it's your first, second, third, or fourth attempt, there will be no further attempts granted to you to improve your marks. So as you saw on the display demonstration, you get the certificate immediately as soon as you pass, and there's no option for a reattempt. So I hope all of the admin has been handled and understood. I will be sending out all the admin on email probably tomorrow morning, not tonight, because the recording will take some time to download, as this has been the longest of our lectures by quite a distance. So once again, it's left for me to thank Abdullah for his excellent presentation and answering of all the questions, and thank all of you for your interaction during the last 7 lectures. Have a good evening. All the best for your umpiring careers, and we shall be in touch on email for the exams. Thank you and good night.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you very much, Abdullah. Good night.
You're welcome, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Bye, everyone.